you a couple of practice ones here using the sum and difference formulas. We're going to find the cosine of a minus b. Now there's a formula that says cosine of a minus b is cosine. If this is minus, this will be a plus. C. And that's the difference formula for cosine, coco plus cc. Now, when you see two different angles, I want you to draw two different triangles. So if you have cosine of A, we're going to have a unit circle here in quadrant 2. So it's going to look like this. And this is angle A, and it looks like the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And so if this is 3 and this is negative 2, what will this side be? What do you think, Sandler, what do you think? You got it, 9 minus 4 square root of 5, perfect. And it's positive in quadrant 2. So then below it I would write the sine of A is root of 5 over 3. The cosine of A is adjacent over hypotenuse. If you have those listed, it'll help us for the problem. Okay, then for the second one, we're in quadrant 4. So if we're in quadrant 4, it's going to be this triangle. Here's B, and it looks like the cosine is 4 over 7. And then 49 minus 16, I got to figure that out, 33. So this will be negative square root of 33. How many had that through triangles? You good with that? Okay, so then, if that's your triangle, I'm going to write what the sine and cosine are. So the sine of B is opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine of B is adjacent over hypotenuse, and that was given. So now that we have those two and the other two, now we can just plug those in. The cosine of A, this whole cosine of A is here, negative 2/3. Did anybody write cosine of negative 2/3? I hope not. Don't replace the whole thing with negative 2/3. Then cosine B, oh, that's just over here. You're going to replace that with 4/7. And then sine of A, that's over here, root of 5 over 3. And sine of B is right here, negative root of 33 over 7. So if you wanted to, you get negative 8 minus, well, it's 5 times 33, 165, all over 3 times 7, 21. How many got that? Okay, any questions on that? That is using the sum and difference formula of cosine, using these as clues, finding sine and cosine of A and B, and then just plugging them on in. Now for this one, cosine A plus B, that's just the cosine of A times the cosine of B, co minus C. And if you had to, you could plug those in, but I would just say, hey, it's just going to be negative 8 plus square root of 165 over 21. Now this C is kind of interesting because we're not even going to have to worry about B. All we have to do is use this formula here, use this one, and it says cosine of the first times cosine of the second. This is plus, this will be minus, sine of the first times sine of the second, pi over 2. Any questions on that? Did I lose you on that? So Taylor, what's the cosine of pi over 2? Here's pi over 2, and here's a point, 0, 1. What's the cosine of pi over 2? 0. So you'd write cosine A times 0, and then Taylor, what's the sine of pi over 2? 1. So you got 1. So this is going to be 0 minus sine, which would be negative sine of A. Did anybody get negative sine of A for that one? All right. Drew, any questions? Is it going okay? Okay, let's do one more of these. I'm going to make one up right now. I'm going to call this D. Let's see if you can figure out what the sine of pi minus B is equal to. So if we're doing a double angle problem, you have sine 2x is like sine x plus x, c co plus co c. Notice you have sine x cosine x twice, so that's where we get 2 sine x cosine x. And I like to just write it here. 2 times sine of x times the cosine of x. Okay. Another one we might be interested in is cosine x plus x, which is the cosine of the first times the cosine of the second minus the sine of the first times the sine of the second. And that is cosine squared x minus sine squared x. So once you have those circles, you're going to do the exact same thing you've always done. You're going to take a unit circle. If you're in quadrant 4, you make a triangle. Then you're going to fill it in according to your clues. Tangent x is opposite over adjacent. That'll make the square root of 34. Then you're going to write sine of x is negative 3 over root of 34. Cosine of x is 5 over root of 34. And then you're just going to plug into the formula. Sine 2x, 2 sine x cosine x. You just plug these in. Here is this. Here is that. And then when you multiply that out, I think you get like negative 30 34ths, something like that. And then you do the same thing for cosine 2x. Cosine squared x minus sine squared x. Once you have those sine and cosine, you just plug those in. That one's going to be 25 minus 9, 16 34ths. That's what that one's going to be. All right, and so that's the review for using the double angles and the sum and difference formulas.